clip feature, which is necessary if you want to, you have continuous video, but you want to do stuff in the middle. This also is sort of timeline editing, which is not preferred, but it can be done, where you're editing in the timeline instead of choosing which footage that you have in your media browser to pull down. So you take your playhead and you move it where you want maybe I want to remove all of this right here, all of this footage of the door. So the playhead is right there. Go up to modify and split clip. And notice what happens. It becomes two discrete pieces of the clip. The little ball spins. And what I want to do is move the playhead over here. Once we've got the door, we'll stop right where the woman is. And we'll split the clip again. Modify, split clip. So now I have this piece that I can pull out, or I can move around. But also, now that I've split it, maybe I want to put pictures and drop them in between the footage. So there's multiple reasons you can use, multiple ways to use split clip. By default, anytime you drop a picture in, it's for 4 seconds. You can always change the duration by dragging it or dragging it, or just dragging it's probably the easiest. And double clicking on it, it shows your preview up here. And if you notice, I'll get off of that, even though the picture's still, there's an effect that's applied called the Ken Burns effect. What it does is it makes a still picture more interesting. And that's okay, but sometimes you really don't want that. So if you double click, this is actually going into the crop mode. If we go back to fit, that removes that default effect that's going on. So this one I removed it. Notice how still it is. Usually the Ken Burns effect is not a bad thing. It's usually a good thing. It's visually interesting, and it makes things a little less boring. So I've split the clip, and you can insert stuff. This is also, you can use split clip on the audio, lots of stuff like that. But the other thing is, if you have two pieces of footage, I'm going to take these out just by clicking and deleting. And so these are two pieces of different footage. So notice how it sort of jumps. What I'm going to do is add a transition. Transitions link two pieces of clips, or two clips, or they could do pictures, or pretty much they join two pieces and they make it so it flows a little bit better. And we usually use cross dissolve or cross blur as the most common ones. Cross zoom is also very good. You get little previews if you drag over them. I'm going to use a cross blur. And my rule of thumb is you want to keep it simple. Stick with one transition. One thing I usually do when I end a video is I do a fade to black. It just kind of makes it a little bit nicer. So when you play the end of the video, it just fades to black. And that's kind of a nice polished way. So let's look at what this transition does. See? A little blur. It's like almost sort of like a hiccup, but it makes the two pieces flow together. And you can put them between any clips or a clip and a picture. One thing to keep in mind, though, it does eat into your video, so the transition doesn't exist without footage, so it's actually taking the two clips and I'll go in the precision editor, and this is a little more advanced, but you can see it's taking these two pieces of the clip and overlapping them. And here you can actually drag and extend it or shorten it. You can only shorten it but so much. This transition, and essentially the transition is, it's an overlay, an overlap. Sometimes there's an animation involved, but this is what it looks like. So if I was to drag it, notice how it eats into the clips, and it can actually shorten your video. If you're trying to make a 3-minute video, it will shorten it, so you need to be careful about that. So that is using split clip and also using transitions in iMovie.